If you think you can't draw or you just don't like to, this is the perfect painting for you. So grab your supplies and let's get started. So first I'd like you to get out your masking tape, and I'd like you to try and find an old gift card or an old credit card. That's just to get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a piece of masking tape and we're going to tear along the edge as much as you can. I know it's tricky. Sometimes they split on you. And then try to tear the other edge. And what this will do is give you a nice natural look. There we go. I want it off the page, but I want the bottom showing and I want the top off the page. And this little guy that's left, I can use him for a little branch. I'm being sexist here. It's not a him. There we go. And I'm going to get another one. That's not long enough, so I'm going to get another piece. And I'm going to do 3 of these. Okay, I'm going to do this one. Oh darn, I always get one better than the other. Okay, that's good enough. So I'm going to put one this way. I think I'd like them to, no, maybe I'll do it this way. There. And I'm going to put one over here for interest. A lot of people have rules about painting, and they say it's more pleasing to the eye if you work in odd numbers. So let's stick to that and see if they're right. So that's going to go off there. And of course, trees are really never straight. They're often crooked. They grow towards the sun. And so this side is too straight, as you can see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double it up with another piece of tape that I ripped that's quite jagged, which is what I want for nice natural looking trees. Run your fingers along the tape to give it a good seal. You just want to prevent the paint from seeping under it if you can. But if it does, don't worry, we'll fix that. So one more jagged edge here to cover, straight edge to cover. I'll try and do it with this piece. It's right here. And then we can get started with the fun stuff. I don't like that actually. I'm going to pick that up. So I'm going to bring it over here a little bit more. There. Yeah, that's good enough. Okay. If you have some extra teeny tiny ones, like I said, sometimes birch trees have like branches growing out from all different places. That one looks too uniform with that one, so I'm going to move it. I don't like uniformity in my paintings. There we go. I'll stick it there, and that's enough of that. The next thing we're going to do after doing this, make sure, like I said, you press down all your masking tape so it's nice and firm against your paper, which I am using my Dollarama paper again, as I promised in my beginner paintings. I'm going to use beginner products. I'm going to clean my palette here. Sorry, I should have done this before. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to do a little mini landscape. So we're going to have a sky, we're going to have something in the background, and then we'll have the foreground. So I'm going to take my spray bottle. You do not have to have a spray bottle for this project. If you do, just wet your paper and take your largest brush just to spread that out. Okay. There we go. So that's done. Now we're going to choose a nice blue to paint with. And I think that cobalt blue makes a nice cool sky. But you can choose any blue you like, actually, because let's face it, it's your painting and you get to do what you like with it. That's what it's all about. And with my size 8 round, I'm making a very watery mixture, and we can add more as we go. So up at the top, it's going to be darker because it's closer to you, like when you're looking at this picture. And the farther away the sky gets from you, the lighter it's going to get. So you can either do this to make it look like there's some clouds, but you certainly don't have to. And since watercolor dries a lot lighter, I'm going to darken it up right away. Okay, just like so. I'm just adding some water to my brush so that I can fade this out. Okay, and there we have it. I'd like the grass in the foreground to be about 1/3 of the way up. And between the sky and the grass, I'd like some shrubs in fall colors. So I'll be choosing yellow ochre and burnt sienna to start with. So I'm going to start with the lighter color. So I'm going to go in with some yellow ochre. And I'm going to make it pretty thick. If you do not have yellow ochre, take your yellow and add, if you only have blue, red and yellow, add some blue and then a bit of red until you get like a browny yellow. And I mean a little bit, start a little bit at a time. Okay, so we're going in with this. We're going in with the lightest color. Okay, rinse your brush, and then we're going to go in with a nice orangey color. It's called burnt sienna. It's like an orangey brown. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is my burnt sienna right here. It's like a rusty color. I love that color, and that's a very fall color. So I'm just going to tap that in. The paper is still nice and wet. And it doesn't look like much now, but later you'll see it. It's quite pleasing to the eye. And then I'm going to add some green, a base green for where the grasses are. Okay, so what green shall I choose? I'm going to choose, this one is called, in this set it's called sap green. Most sets, the sap green is a lot deeper than this. But this is a nice, we'll just start with this. My paper is already drying down here, so I'm going to go in with a more wet brush. There we go. And once again, because it's closer to us, so this is going to be darker. Okay, so I'm going to go in, put thicker paint. Straight from the palette here. I'm not, excuse me, straight from the well. I'm not putting it on my palette first. And try and darken up right underneath the masking tape as well. Okay. Now remember, this is a simple landscape. What we could do in the future is we'll make a landscape with some light in the sky here, and then we can have some rays of light shining through. There, that looks like a bit of a cloud. Or if you put water on your wet paint, you can remove it a little bit. You can make blossoms. If you leave the water there, it'll make a blossom, or a cauliflower as we like to call it. So for now, this is all I'm doing. Actually, I'm going to go in and put a little bit of dark underneath here. So I'm going to go in with some brown. So if you want brown and you only have the 3 primary colors, what do? You mix blue, yellow, and red all together, and you're going to get a brown. Okay. Because it's kind of dark where you know, inside these bushes. So we're just gonna separate the grass from the bushes in the back, and then the sky. Okay, so I'm gonna dry this with my hair dryer. You put it on hot, on low wind, the lowest setting possible, and then gently dry it, and try and hold your tape a little bit, like try and protect your tape, because it will want to come off. And I'll be right back. Okay, so now we're back. I wanted to show you, this is exactly what a cauliflower is. I hope you can see that well. I'm going to bring it up to the camera here. Closer. It's when you, what I did there was, it looks like a set of eyes, doesn't it? I dropped little droplets of water that I didn't notice, so I didn't dry them right away, right? I didn't pick it up. And it made like a cauliflower. It makes like, it pushes the paint away. When you start painting more complicated pieces, you may want to use cauliflowers to your advantage. Sometimes you want them to happen to add texture, light, or just interest. They're just fun. These ones in particular, though, they're going to get covered up. Right now, I'm going to take off my tree tape. Okay. Aha. See, it bled under there a bit, but that doesn't worry me one bit. Okay. There. And there. So now we get to painting again. This is the fun part. So what I have here is an old Fabricville card. And so I cut it so that I have a different, I hope you can see this. Wait, let me put it up against the green. I have a different edge. I cut this on an angle, and then this one is a larger one. And so I have this smaller flat side, and then I have this longer flat side. So I'm going to use the smaller flat side just so I have a bit more control. And in my palette, I'm going to mix, I'm just going to mix right on top of this. So I'm going to take my cobalt blue, which is already in the painting. So it's going to have more harmony if you choose colors that are already in your painting. Okay. So you see this is starting to go like a gray color. So what I want to add to this is some burnt sienna. If you don't have, use orange. And there, that's like a browny gray color. If you can't manage to get the shade you want by adding more blue, adding more, you know, red, or just take some black and add it if you like. Okay. So I think that's good enough for now. So I'm going to take the small edge of my card and I'm going to get it dirty. I'm going to get it just on the edge. You see I have a little bead there. So that's what I want. So because I'm going to assume, this is my painting, so I'm going to make the light come this way. So it's shining this way, which means this part of the tree would be in the shadow and this would be in the light. So I'm going to start on this side because I'm right-handed. So I'm going to go on the edge and pull. On the edge, pull. And try and slightly round your movement, but it's not a huge deal if you don't. And then I'm going to do this little guy here. Yeah, I see it's I messed that one up, but that's okay, I can fix it. Okay. So now I'm going to go in this side. On the edge and pull. On the edge, pull. Pull. Okay. I still think that's a bit green. I noticed some green showing through, so I'm just going to grab some red to add to it because I don't want it to be green. Now that's a bit too red, but who cares? It's our tree, eh? We can have it any color we like. So now this tree, the sun, the light's coming from this way, right? So I'm going to start on this side, just like I did this one. On the edge and pull. Whoops, I missed that edge. On the edge and pull. Okay, on the edge and pull. And that one's under this one. Okay. So These little branches are a little trickier to do with the card because there's so little space to work in. Okay. So this is a little too brown for me, but it's good. It's passable. So this is what I wanted to show you. So now that you've got that done, you're going to come from the other side, but in a much lighter shade, in a much lighter manner. So you're going to make your paint more watery. I'm just adding some blacks to gray it up a little bit. Okay. So just ever so lightly work from the other side. Work from the other side. There. Okay. Whoops. That's okay, because you know, sometimes birch trees have these very the bark is kind of broken and it's black, and so that's a good start there. So so these need to dry before I fiddle with them again. I am going to try and remove some of this. So I'm going to get my handy dandy Wet n Wild makeup brush that I got at a Dollar Tree. So you wet it and you just gently scrub on the side and lift it with a tissue. Now, because I'm going to add more layers, and this is enough, I've taken off enough. I don't need to take off anymore. This here is a bit of a gray blob that I didn't mean to. There, that's good enough. And these cauliflowers, I'm just going to try and soften the edges a little bit, because I can go in with more paint, but because watercolor is transparent, you're still going to see that boo-boo. So I'm just trying to soften the edges, and then we'll work it in. Okay. So now we're going to work on the grass again. So these bushes, I'm going to add a little bit of green to them, and then we're going to add some fall leaves to this. So I'm going to go in with my smaller brush just so I can have a bit more control over what happens and in the amount of water that I'm using. I just have to clean my little palette here again. And I need a nice green. Now, I really like the olive green. I find it such a natural green. Some of the greens that you get in a paint set, like this one here, I'm going to show you. It's like a bit of a fake looking green. It looks like a fake plant. So if you mix them together, and if you don't have olive green, you can add yellow, you can add some orange, you can add some red. But in these, I want the olive green. So I'm gonna go back to my olive green, and I'm just gonna add some interest in here with my brush. This really should have been done while it was wet, but it wasn't. So to soften it out, I'm going to use my spray bottle, because I should have wet my paper first before doing that. But I like to show you, I don't want to skip over all my boo-boos, because then you can learn from my mistakes. Okay. It's just to give it a little bit of interest. I'm just gonna dab this up a bit, just where I want to, because I want to work on the forefront here, on the foreground. So now around the trees, I'm gonna make sure that the green is dark, because right now it just looks like it's sitting there, right? So we're gonna go in with some dark green, And I'm gonna bury these a little bit at the bottom so it doesn't look so perfect. But I am gonna have to use thicker paint than that because when that dries, it's going to fade out. Okay. So for now, that's fantastic. Now back to our trees. I think they're slightly damp, but I think it's okay. I can work on them. So I'm going in with a fairly small brush. It's one of my smaller brushes. And these trees still look like they're not quite round. So we have to add shadows to make them look round, right? So because the light is coming from the center, these two sides are in light. Now this, you notice that this kind of crept up, the color crept up the side of the tree. I'm not going to worry about this, but I am going to try and darken this side of the tree. So I'm going to go in with a bit of black, and you can add some, like put your cobalt blue in there so it adds a bit more interest to your black. Okay. And I'm just going to drop some on this side, and there's going to be shadow here because there's a little branch coming out, right? So it's the same with this side. This side I had trouble because of the credit card. It was a little bit small for that credit card. There's a puddle forming here, so I'm just going to dab it up a little bit. Okay, I don't want a puddle. I'm going to take a wet brush. Instead of wasting the paint that's on this brush, I'm just going to take another wet brush. And I'm just going to soften out these lines because they look a little bit too uniform. Okay. Because all we want to do is add a bit of shadow and make the tree look a little more round, right? Okay, starting to come alive. Now I'm going to do it with this one too. Now, for comfort's sake, I am going to turn this around because it's the opposite side now. So I'm going to put my darker gray, kind of bluey color, and my cobalt blue. Now I'm kind of rushing here. I'm sorry, guys. Just don't want you to be bored watching this. And I'm going to soften it, and you're going to see it gets drawn out to the water. Okay, I'm wetting my brush again to draw this out. And you can coax it if it's not drawing it, if it's not coming out far enough. If you want it out, you can coax it. Okay, so I'm going to turn this around and see what it actually looks like. Oh, that's not too bad. Not bad. Not too bad. Okay. And this one too, I'm going to do the same thing. I want it to look a little more round. So with a very watery brush, I'm going to go into my color. Because you just want a thin kind of layer on it. Okay, I seemingly had a tiny camera malfunction. I don't know what happened. All I did that you missed was I put these little tiny branches. So we're going to go over that quickly once again, just so I can explain myself. So let's mix some cobalt blue and burnt sienna together, and in a very thick consistency, very little water. And that's going to make a very dark brown gray. Sometimes it can look black, which is perfect for these birch trees. So, and what you're going to do is hold your brush vertically, and you're just going to make very thin lines and with very sharp angles. And the less fuss you make, the more natural they're going to look. You do not have to aim for perfection. In fact, it's better if you don't. So, and then I went and I dried this because I didn't like what was happening down here. So I'm going to come in and fix this. But I do like that we managed to cover this, cover the bottom of the trees, because they don't look natural, right? They look like you used masking tape. So I'm just softening these edges with my brush. It's a damp brush with clean water. Okay, this one is okay. I kind of like the look of that. So before I deal with this area, I'm going to go in with the leaves in up here. So what's happening now are the leaves are falling. So we're going to have leaves turning color here, and we're going to have some down here. So when leaves are turning color on a birch, I think you're going to see some nice yellow. So we're just going to go in and tap and go right over your trunks. Go right over your tree trunks. Don't worry about that, because that looks more natural. So go in with quite a thick consistency of paint. Not too much water, because you want this to show up. Yellow can be pretty opaque, which means it's not as transparent as some of the other colors. So you can get away with painting over some colors with it if you have it thick enough. Okay, so then there's some falling down, and there's some down here. Okay. And then next I'm going to go in with a nice orange color. Fall has to be my favorite, just because it's so pretty. Summer's pretty too with all the flowers, but I mean, fall, I don't know. I think it's just your last hurrah before winter. Because our winters here in Canada, they're kind of dark and can get kind of gloomy. Everything's a different shade of gray. And even when the sun does come out, it's really a nice treat. So I'm going to go in again. It's a very thick consistency. It's just enough water to activate the paint, kind of thing. And try to move your brush so you don't get such uniform, you know, like I was doing this, and so everything looked the same. So I'm going to flip my brush around, and now I'm going to go in for a nice red. So let's see if this is the one I want. Yeah. So, oh God, that's beautiful. And again, I'm going to make it look like the leaves are falling. Falling, falling. Dee, dee, dee. Okay. I gotta make sure my camera's working again. I've never had that happen before. Okay. And lots of red down here. Now I'm cleaning because I want to go right back into my nice yellow here. Get a nice thick consistency here, because what I want to do is I want to cover up a little boo-boo I made here earlier. If you recall, some gray paint came out of my tree trunk and kind of it bled into the grass, so I just wanted to cover that up a little bit. So now I'm going to deepen the greens here. So I didn't really have to put these leaves in right now, but I did. So what would I like to do? I'm going to deepen this green, but I like this because you know, it's not so vibrant, in the fall, the grasses, and they're still there. They're more, sometimes they're like hay. They look like hay. They look like it's dying. So what I do want to do is darken this area here, because this is the closest area. So these should be dark, just like the sky, and the blue is darker here, and then it fades out. So I kind of want to do the same with the grass. And then I'm going to put some, I'm using two separate greens, like a bluey green and an olive green, which is kind of browny. And I'm mixing them up, and I'm just gonna add some grasses. And you feel free. You don't have to follow this exactly, but just do some. I mean, you really. It's so fun to do this. You just go with the flow. Go with what you feel like doing. I would like a few green leaves here, I think. And then up here too, I'd like a few green, because there's still some green. Not everything is dead yet. Not yet. So back and forth. What I do when I have, if there's someone's birthday, a girlfriend that we don't really buy each other gifts, but it's always nice, I can make a little painting, and you don't even have to frame it. You can just give it like that, or you can go and find an inexpensive frame somewhere that you think suits the painting, and it's just such a really nice gift. You can make cards out of your paintings. And voila, there we have the easiest fall painting, and you didn't draw. Once again, you did not have to draw a thing. So I really hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please consider subscribing to my channel and giving this a like. It really helps the algorithm. The YouTube algorithms are beyond me, but if you do that, more people will get to watch, and you'll get notified of all my new videos. So since we're all done, it's time to take off this tape. This is the reveal. So you unstick your tape and you pull away from your painting. Never pull like this or towards it. Pull away and slow, and see this Dollarama paper, it does not tear whatsoever. That's my favorite part of a painting, is taking the tape off. Thanks for watching. Happy watercoloring.